Oh, good morning. Yeah, it's still morning. British Church, almost noon. Uh, can you believe it? This is week 2 in our Bridge Gospel reading plan. Hopefully you're joining us, and I'm probably going to say this every week, but it's never too late. We have the reading plan here, but you can get it. You can get a copy if you need it. But we're reading through the Gospels. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Started last week, and we're going to be finishing up right before Thanksgiving. And it's just a way give people of the church a way to those days. We put on there no Saturday or Sunday, but you can choose whatever day. And but at the beginning, if you get our little copy right in here, I don't know if you can see it or not. Maybe is it upside down or backwards? I don't know. Let me take that off. Oh, much better. It says, before you read, it says pray. That's their acronym of pray. And it says, P is for praise. Pause and be still. Just okay, turn off everything. Silence. Do not disturb. You know what I mean. All the little things, the little notices there. Because no matter what, I almost can guarantee you, as soon as you sit down, you're going to dedicate the Lord 15, 20 minutes. You're going to hear the little notices, and I get those too, so I make sure mine are all silenced. So pause and be still. R is rejoice in God and His goodness. Basically, God, just think about His goodness for that He's given you and blessed you. Maybe it's always good to look at God's goodness, especially when you're not having a good day. Try to find some good things in that has happened. And then it's ask. A is for ask Him for insight as you read. Ask Him, just say, God, I've read this 12 times or I've never read this. Give me something. Give me a nugget. Give me something to chew on for this day. And then finally is probably one of the hardest things is to yield your heart to God. And yielding your heart to God, basically it's a surrender. That's, we do that when we make that decision for Christ. We surrender our life to Christ. But it's something that I have to do every single day. Because every single day there is this battle going on. Like we talked about last week, there's a spiritual battle going on for our hearts, minds, and souls. Kind of challenging you, then you probably need to take another look at it, because when I read this, pretty much every day I find something like, oh man, I got a ways to grow. And so what I've asked you to do is through the week is when in each chapter, and that's kind of what it talks about there, just find one nugget, find one word, one sentence, one paragraph, one in the Gospels. That's really, really easy to find those things. Sometimes there's so much there. Like some of these chapters here, it's like drinking from a fire hose. There's so much in there. So this week was Matthew chapter 6 through 10. We're still Sermon on the Mount in chapter 6. The thing I discovered there was a little bit different. Is in chapter 6 is how many times it says do not. Jesus is talking to the ordinary, everyday people up on this mountain. It says don't. Hey, don't be like the pagans. Don't be like others. Don't be like them when you pray. Don't, just babble on when you pray. Like think you're going to be heard for your many words. And that should be an encouragement for those of you like maybe kind of new in faith and you think, oh man, I don't know how to pray. Do you have to pray in King James? Because I've heard people pray in King James English. I didn't know Jesus didn't pray in King James English, but that's okay. But it's just about your heart, and so God's not into your many words as much as maybe it's just a few words. He says, so don't keep babbling on. Like you got to fill it. Okay, I got 10 minutes, God. It's kind of like you used to do in the book report. Used to do a lot of ums and ahs and repeating and stuff like that. At least I did in school. And so I tried to kill time if I had to do a 5-minute book report. So that's what he's talking about there. So there's so many do nots in chapter 6. And one of the key things there is one that it really spoke to me again was therefore do not worry. Believe it or not, I worry sometimes. Yeah. And what if? Ask my wife. What if? Or do we need to do this? And so he says, don't worry. And then it talks about God, He loves you so much. He said, take care of the birds. He's going to take care of Tim. And so he says, don't worry. And then in chapter 7, persistence in my prayer, don't give up. Because some of you have been praying for something or someone for a long time. maybe it's been years. I have some things I've been praying for, people I've been praying for years. And, you know, I just haven't seen what I've been praying for. But he said, that's why Jesus says, be persistent. Be persistent in your prayers. Don't give up. And then in chapter 8, the thing that kind of stuck out to me there was, again, there's a lot in each of all these chapters. This is just a real, brief. What kind of jumped out at me was in Matthew 8, verse. Sorry again. That's why it's kind of good to have a good study Bible with a little bit of little study notes there, because you think like, oh gosh, Jesus tells him. He says, follow me, but let the dead go bury the dead. And it's like, Jesus, you're so cold. You're so mean. What do you mean? The guy just said, let me go, bury my dad. And what it is in those days, when you died, even today in the Middle East, many of the practices are, you die. Like if I was to die today, they would bury me today. You don't plan a funeral, 2 months, 2 weeks out. You go bury them, and you see that in Scripture too. And so Jesus is basically saying, like, so the guy's in a sense kind of waiting around. Maybe his dad's sick, maybe you don't know, and or maybe he's elderly or whatever. He said, but Jesus said, no, man, if you can follow me, you follow me now. And so he wasn't trying to be a jerk, but that's why you got to know the context there. And then in chapter 9. Is when the calling of Matthew who wrote the Gospel of Matthew, and I just wrote on there, it's like it's huge that he called Matthew, and how much flack Jesus got for calling Matthew, even especially from the religious leaders. Now you think the religious leaders, the pastors and the church leaders of the day, when they see somebody like Matthew as a tax collector who was like, he just didn't have a good reputation, wasn't well liked. And just he hung around with all the wrong people, or not the wrong people, but the other sinners and other people. And so you would think, like, when Matthew makes a decision for Christ, they would be like, oh, that is so cool to see this life transformation in Matthew. But Jesus got all this flack. It's, Jesus, why you hang around sinners? And and Jesus said, hey, that's what I came for. I came for the sick, not for the healthy. And then in chapter 10, where we kind of ended up, there's a lot there. But the very last verse of chapter 10, and Jesus is talking about, for anyone who gives even a cup of cold water to these little ones, who is my disciple, truly I tell you, that person will certainly not lose their reward. And I kind of wrote next to that, compassion to the least. And just being kind, giving something, doing something, expecting nothing in return. And going back to the previous chapters, you don't have to let everybody know. You don't have to, let everybody know what you did, and just kind of like you just do it out of the kindness of your heart. And that's what Jesus is talking about. He says, even a cup of cold water, because that was like, was nothing. But he said, even if you do that, do something. Sometimes people think like, well, I can't do, all these big things. I can't go on a mission trip. I can't do this, I can't afford that. But here Jesus, he gives him the smallest thing. He couldn't get anything smaller than a cup of water. And so hopefully that's a little encouraging there to you. Like, even if you just, an encouraging word to someone, an encouraging text to someone, saying, hey, I'm going to pray for you, and you pray for them. Something that, you can do things that doesn't cost you monetarily. But that's what Jesus said, we're doing something to really extend the kingdom of God, to let people know that you love Jesus, and that's our call. Right here in the church, here in our office, right in here, it says connecting people to Christ. That's what the bridge, is about. That's our kind of our mission statement: is connecting people to Christ. There's a lot of other great things out there we can be doing, and we do some good things, but we're not a huge church. But you know what? The church's call, whether it's a mega church or a smaller church like ours, the call is to connect people to Christ. So hopefully that was a little encouraging there. Today we're going to be at Centennial Park in a little while to help set up. If you can come down there, we'll be there by 1:30. Doesn't take long. and just come around the back or knock, and we can get you in there. It doesn't take, we just set up the chairs and stuff like that. So we're gonna do that today at 1:30, and then we'll be at Centennial Park back there this Sunday, 9:30. Coffee and donuts. Back in the book of Acts, chapter 15. Chapter 15, we're going to divide it into two parts there. So we'll be in the first part this week, and we will have communion together. So if you want to have communion together, join us this Sunday at Centennial Park. And again, we're encouraging people to just come on down. If you want to wear a mask, wear a mask. Again, I think about the excuses there, people excuses of following Christ. I think I'm just, I understand sometimes people, still hesitant maybe to come back to church, but, I won't get into it, but I'm thinking, it's time. It's time, and unless you just have some real serious health condition or you yourself are, you're sick, then, but come on back and join us. So God bless you. Have a